Here is my week 6 printmaking Adobe Express video. The first videos watched were on Khan Academy that gave an introduction to printmaking. The first printing method is called relief printing. The relief printmaking method is the carving away of the whites of an image that raises the image up to accept ink and transfer it to a piece of paper. It was the first and most accessible printmaking method, and it is basically a stamp. Its origin started in hand printing, where you use a baren to transfer an image. The image is inked and a sheet of paper is placed on top and pressed with the baren to transfer the ink evenly. When cutting on a wood block, it is first prepared by toning the block with a wash of jet black film ink. The drawing can be transferred to the block using iron oxide or carbon transfer paper. The artist then uses wood carving tools to carve out the image, choosing which parts will be the white and black lines. Once cut, the block is prepared for inking. Linoleum print is a very similar process to the woodcut. They have similar tools and drawing processes, but the linoleum has a black background with no texture. The next method is called intaglio printing. Intaglio is a printmaking process and is a way we transfer an image onto a piece of paper. It is based on the fact that the image area is below the flat surface on the plate. Dry point is a direct scarring of a metal by moving metal rather than removing it. An etching tool is used to scratch the surface to raise a burr to move the metal to the sides. The burr that is raised holds ink to create a fuzzy line. A roulette can be used to create textured dots and various tones. Steel facing increases the strength of the plate so none of the burrs break during printing. Etching is based on the removal of metal through a chemical process. It involves several steps, starting with polishing and cleaning so there is an acid reaction protecting the white areas of the etching plate. The plate is held upside down to smoke the plate and heat the ground to absorb the soot. Drawing involves scratching away the ground to reveal copper and create a trough for ink to sit in. Etching the plate is a process of eating away the bare copper areas. It is in the bath for 15 minutes and then rinsed and cleaned. It is then prepared for printing by webbing the ink into recesses in the plate. Tarlatan is used to remove excess ink. It is then set on the press with a dampened sheet of paper and it is run through the press at high pressure. The next printmaking method is called lithography. Lithography was invented with the purpose of printing sheet music. It is based on how grease and water resist each other. It involves a dampened plate rolled over with grease. It is most autograph and reveals the most clarity. It can be layered and be printed in different colors. An artist will draw with greasy material on a lithographic stone. It is then chemically treated to establish the areas where water goes and establish the drawing inside the stone. The drawing materials used are lithographic pencils and crayons. The stone is receptive to water and grease. It is also able to be sculpted as well. Every mark with a greasy material will hold. After the first etch, the drawing material is removed and printed ink is applied, called proving the stone. Adding gum arabic establishes the non-imaging areas of the stone. Then the acidified gum arabic is added very gently. It is then applied with fresh gum arabic again to wash away the acid. It is then washed with lithotrene and asphaltum. The drawing disappears and then accepts new grease. You'll be able to see a ghost image. It is gone over with a wet and dry towel. Once gone over with ink, the image is then brought up and can be transferred onto paper through pressure. The next video watched was about the Great Wave of Kanagawa. So the subject of the image was Mount Fuji, and the real name was Under the Wave of Kanagawa. So the real title relates to the image because under is where Mount Fuji is nestled. There are also fishermen under the wave trying to get home after delivering fish from the city of Edo. They are rowing for their lives trying to escape the wave. The audience is the middle class because the images were available to the growing middle class for about the cost of a bowl of noodle soup. Ukiyo means floating world, referring to the ephemerality of the fads and fashions of the time, and it was not stuffy, high-end art. The Western art influenced the composition because Western realism creeped its way into Japanese art due to European engravings smuggled in by Dutch traders. The Great Wave betrays a Western influence through the use of linear perspective, a low horizon line, and the appearance of Prussian blue. The relationship between humans and nature is that nature is large and humans are small. This is directly portrayed by the Great Wave by depicting people who are right up against pending disaster rather than being an outside perspective. The sea has always been a formidable opponent to humankind, and its relevance is likely to become stronger. So this is a cliffhanger because the image is a great depiction of why the sea is an opponent to mankind and how it may become stronger, but it can also have many other depictions. It can symbolize an imbalance of power. It is unknown if the fisherman will make it out alive. This represents how the image is a cliffhanger. No one knows what will come of it. Even if you only see the wave, it still holds us in to tell us that big things are happening or about to happen. Next, we studied Shepard Fairey. So, Shepard Fairey, though he may not seem like it, he takes art very seriously. He stumbled upon phenomenon that things are placed in places where they aren't normally found can hold power. Anything seen out of the ordinary is an anomaly, and he ran with this phenomenon. He grew up in Charleston, South Carolina, and he always liked to draw and paint. He paid attention to art outside of quaint art when he started skateboarding. This was due to more punk culture that he took interest in. He used a cohesive art palette and certain icons to represent his own art. He enjoys the idea that someone cannot resist the lure of an image no matter what their opinions are. His use of printmaking, he used a cohesive color palette to create graphic art that represents pop culture and punk rock imaging. He shot photo emulsion screens and combined his illustrations and photography through the process of screen printing. His subjects are people that share the same views as him, as being a populist. He tried to appeal to all instead of creating elitist art that only appeals to people who like punk rock, for example. There are many interesting things about his work, like he is able to participate in democracy through his art, and he depicts art that can be viewed in positive in one realm but negative in another. The last video watched is about monotypes. So a monotype is a unique image printed from a polished plate, such as glass or metal, which has been painted with a design in ink. The painted image is transferred to paper by manually rubbing or using a press. Mediums are applied to the plate using two different methods. In the light field technique, ink or paint is applied directly to the plate, often with a brush. In the dark field technique, the plate is covered with a layer of ink or paint, and the image is formed by manipulating and removing the ink or paint using a variety of tools, including brushes, rags, or the artist's fingers. Each plate typically yields one monotype, but subsequent pulls can be made from the residual mediums on the plate.